everyone. Welcome to the ComicBase Livestream. This is number 71, and we're going to be trying some really cool and varied stuff today, including, let me move the camera so we're not looking at my printer. Hey everyone, I'm your host Pete Bickford. I'm the creator of ComicBase. And we have not one, not two, but three big announcements coming up today. But before we get to that, please like and subscribe if you would. Especially helps us in the early moments of the show to get the announcements sent out. Just smash that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. This is a great channel for learning great new things about ComicBase. Occasionally get into topics like comics and a little bit of culture related to entertainment, but usually stick it to how to make the most out of ComicBase. And today we have, like I say, a lot of big news to share. So let's get to it. First of all, I just want to say hi to everyone. Also, I've learned the hard way after doing these things 70 sometimes now that if I don't go and check the chat, first of all, I don't want to miss anyone. But at the same time, I'm like, it also is, that's the time when you guys are furiously typing and telling me, yeah, Bickford, your mic's not on, or stuff like that. So anyway, hey everyone, Richard, nice to see you. Weather in Pacific Northwest, I guess not raining for us. That lovely. And Seattle, Xanadu Comics, Oro, nice to see you. Well, we've got the whole Pacific Northwest going here. Mike Beam, great to see you as well. Rob, always great, and Jet, good going. All right, so guys, let's get to it. You have heard me talking for the last several months about the new version of ComicBase that we're working on. This has been the most open we've ever been about a new release, I think, in our company's history. Really comes from doing this stuff out. Well, let me put it this way. Harlan Ellison once had almost like an art piece back in, I want to say, the 50s even, where he was like, well, okay, being a writer is a very solitary profession, but what I will do is I will set myself in a shop window and you can watch me write a book. And I guess, at least that's the lore that came around the whole thing, but, he tried to turn, something that's very private, very... It all exists inside your own head until it's real into something that you could see happening. We try to do the same kind of thing here with this one. A couple reasons. One is we learned going into ComicBase 2020 that even though, when you're programming something new, it's a creation of your mind, or several people's minds working together. But there's nothing to see until you're fairly well along in it. And even then, you're not ready to install it and run it and do things with it until really right toward the end. So why do you want to open this up to the rest of the world where all they can do is see all your mistakes, see all the things you're messing up? Well, when we went to ComicBase 2020, we did the unprecedented step of inviting several of you folks behind the scenes, really just let you get access to the company's Slack, to see the dev team as we're working, and let you both not only find problems in real time, but suggest features that you'd like to see, say, hey, I don't really understand what you're doing with this thing over here, and so forth. And that kind of give and take from folks who weren't right on the dev team just really helps just so much. So we repeated it again with ComicBase 2021, and once again with Burning Man. ComicBase 2022 is what it will officially be called, and it's really been great. I can't tell you how much I've appreciated everyone who took the time to join up and look through infinite numbers of test builds and and give us your feedback and so forth, because it really did shape what we produced. I mean, there were certain things that we were all very gung-ho to try at the beginning where it's just people were like, yeah, I'm not really feeling it. And other things where, up until very, last month or two, it wasn't even something we had planned on doing, where suddenly, you could see how important it was to certain folks. And it was like, okay, well, let's see if we could fit that in. And we really turned it around so that the feature set that, we had sketched out 6 months ago is not the feature set we're going into battle with the production version of this one. And it's a better feature set as a result. So I really appreciate the whole thing. To a little more limited circumstance, we've also invited folks out in the chat to see what we're doing, tell you kind of, give you general progress, as we go along with the whole thing. It's probably a longer time frame, that we were being semi-public about the new version than we really like being. One problem you've got as a company, we also have responsibilities that, the income stream comes from selling the product you've actually got in the hopper. And even though, as I said last time, the whole art of what we do every time is put your best work forward every year, but at the same time, make it so that a year later, you're a little bit sad to be using the old version because you really want the new thing. And so we have to manage that expectation pretty carefully, so that you're always happy to be buying ComicBase whenever. One thing we definitely try is we keep on reinforcing that, hey, no matter when you buy the product, you're going to get a year's worth of service out of it, as well as all the new versions. But even then, it does shape the release cycle. If people say, hey, look, the new version's dropping, I'm just going to wait till the new one comes out, because who wants to buy the old car when the new model year is coming out? So we can't be too forthright about new versions, at least as far as hyping them to the heavens, until they're getting pretty darn close. We kind of split the difference a little bit and said, all right, look, the folks who took the time to listen to these live streams, to kind of follow along with us on this journey, we'll tell you guys more than we will put out on the website, that we'll ever put out in emails and so forth. And you say, well, wait, isn't public? Yeah, but we also know that you guys are kind of like our most committed fans, and we really appreciate you coming here. So we did want to share more with you earlier than we would otherwise do. And so that's, I'm glad we did it, and I'm sure the cycle will begin again in a bit. But yeah, as we're wrapping up here, just want to kind of keep you all up to date with where we're at, and share the progress. Let me also, see, I had a few other folks here. Andrew Detremont, Fabian Vandresh, welcome to the program. Great to see you. Brian Gwinner, been deployed to Germany since June. Wow. Are you back in Germany, or are you back home or not? Wow, thank you for joining. Anyway, slick. All right, so guys, let's start with, so we have 3 big announcements, so let's get the first one under there. ComicBase 2022, formerly known as Burning Man, well, at least to the dev team, still known as Burning Man, is shipping Tuesday. We have a firm release date. It is really coming out, and it's coming out, Tuesday is the day. Now, I'm going to confess, we had some mad dreams earlier on as we're approaching the final weeks of everything. They say that the first 80% of the program takes 80% of the time, the remaining 20% takes 80% of the time. Software definitely works that way. And so, you never really know when you're ready to absolutely pull the trigger on things until the very end. So we did want to take an extra couple days just to make sure that we really had all our ducks in the row. And it started pushing a little too close to the holiday break here. So there was an idle dream we had a week or two ago where we thought, well, wouldn't it be really cool if we were releasing ComicBase serial numbers to folks for the new version as we're doing the live stream, or maybe a day or two beforehand. And it just got to the point where, like, there's too many other little things we get too many more I's to dot, T's to cross, websites to update, stuff like that. We thought, no, that's insane. How about for once we do something somewhat sensible and let there be a holiday break, and then release it when there's actually people back in the office. So as a result, because we love our employees and we appreciate all you guys, and we hope you spend some time with your families, we are going to wait till after Thanksgiving before we actually roll it out. But yeah, the final master is in the can right now. We don't anticipate it changing before Tuesday, but we're going to wait till Tuesday before we roll the whole thing out. At which point, the way it will go for everyone is, if you currently have ComicBase, as we mentioned before, ComicBase comes with a year of update subscription with the program. And what a lot of people don't know is that updates don't just cover the prices and all the new content, but they also cover new versions of the program. So whenever we release something new during the time of your update subscription, you get it. So what'll happen is, if you have a current version of ComicBase and it has a currently active subscription attached to it, what you can do then is just, on Tuesday, we'll put out an announcement, and then you go to your account, go to my account, and then registrations on comicbase.com, and you will magically see a ComicBase 2022 serial number for the same edition you've got right now. Will expire at the same time your current one expires, but you can download it, you can run it, and you're going to be ready to rock right as we go. At which point, you download the software, and now I'm going to do something that is daring to the point of stupid. Is I'm going to install the program live while we're talking. So let me switch over to the monitor here, and which, by the way, the monitor actually works today. So here's my current 2021 database I use for the live stream. I switched it to the darkness theme. You can see what that looks like. And now let's just get out of here, exit that program. I do not have 2022 installed on the program right now. I've just downloaded the software right now. Here's my archive edition. So let's go ahead and let this rip. So I'm going to talk while that's installing. Let me go ahead and bring the installer up into this window so we can watch the whole thing as we go. Fascinating, I know. All right, let's go ahead and put picture-in-picture on here so we can talk over the whole thing. Hopefully that works okay. All right, so what ComicBase is going to do, a couple times out, we rigged the software so that it comes in two parts for the installer. The actual download is actually pretty small, all things considered. It's only, I believe, what is it, 52 megabytes in size for the archive edition. The express version, the free version, are a little bigger because they bundle the pictures right in. They have much smaller numbers of pictures that come with it, so we can actually put that right in the installer. But what that download does is, the very first thing it does is it says, hey, do I need to pull down the resources, which is to say, like the stock database that comes with the program, which has all 965,000 issues with it and so forth. Some of these very big files that don't change much because it's the database you use only once to start your database. But it's a big file, and we didn't want to pull that down every time, so we wanted to be able to release program updates and keep them small. At the same time, the very, very first time you run the program, it has to download that stuff. You're actually watching all this stuff happening in real time. So what it does is it downloads the prerequisites, that's the resources, graphics, things like that, installs the program, gets the whole thing running, and then you're off to the races. All right, so we're going to give that a few minutes to go. I'm going to switch back to the main camera to see how we're doing on stuff. And I think we'll get me done very, very shortly. Oh, and I see, by the way, I will swap back to this one in a second. You'll see that my ComicBase 2021 archive already went away. One of the things it does when you install later versions of ComicBase is it automatically uninstalls the old versions, so that you don't need to worry about uninstalling those ones later. All right, so let me go check the chat. We'll take it from there. Let's see here. Andrea Dentremont. God, I hope I'm saying your name right. Says, will 2022 be Windows 11 compatible? Yes, absolutely it is. We have tested and verified it, and also respects all the new Windows 11 dark mode settings and the other things like that. We're also looking forward to seeing what we can do to play with some of the new features like the widgets as we go forward. I don't want to make any promises right now, but that's something that I definitely have an interest in doing as we go along. All right, let's see here. Windows 11 upgrade. Yeah, and Andrew says, by the way, I've been holding off on the Windows 11 upgrade, and it looks like we are done already. Okay, so let's go ahead and get ready to fire this one up. Okay, let's see here. Look, when Pete is showing us screens using Windows 11. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm using Windows 11 because, ooh, look, curvy edges of Windows. And strangely, different icons. I mean, I'm not going to say they're better or they're worse. They're different. Other than that, though, yeah, Windows 11 has been just okay for me so far. It hasn't been bad, hasn't been amazing, but, it's been all right. All right, so let me go ahead and get ComicBase 2022. I'm going to move it over to the screen we're looking at right now. And I'm going to launch it. And let's see what we're doing. Oh, of course, it wants to pop up on the other screen. Right, of course it does. All right, I'm going to then force it to go to the other one. All right, so a couple things I want you to notice right away as we start up here. All right, so first of all is, if you look in the background there, this is the same database. This is the ComicBase 2021 database, and this is the same dark theme, but you notice the dark theme just got a lot darker because we managed to really more fully embrace some of the things we've got open to us for rendering more interesting dark themes and so forth. We're going to show you more of that as we go along. The other thing that happened right away is the very first time you run the program, you're going to get given this Getting Started wizard. And depending on the version of ComicBase you're running, whether you've got the Express version, there's only a screen or two on it. If you've got the Archive edition, there's a few more options, so we show you a few more things. But it's basically going to lead you through the common steps that we really wish you could set up. We really want to encourage you to use certain set of settings, but there's different reasons we can't default them that way. And so you guys, if you saw the live stream this time, my screen wasn't blinking out at that time, you would have seen it last time, but let's do it and go through it again because it only takes a second. All right, first thing we want to do is we say, look guys, the data gets stored on your machine. This is your data, not my data. So if you ever stop updating your ComicBase or paying a subscription charge, it isn't like we're going to hold your data hostage and your data goes away or something. But just like that letter to grandma, your thesis, or whatever big project that you've spent a lot of time building, protect it, because it is your responsibility. We offer you different ways to back it up to our cloud and to do things like that, but fundamentally, you just, because you own the data, that also comes with the responsibility of taking care of it. So we want to encourage you to, always make sure you've got a backup and things like that. And so we are basically going to default you to say, hey, look, use the standard backup settings. We're going to save backups in the last 5 times you used the database. We're going to put little timestamps on each one, so if something went wrong, you can go back to the one that was from 3 hours ago or yesterday or when the last time you used the program before that and so forth. And then as you've burned through your 5 backups, it'll cycle the oldest one and clean up and move on from there. You can change this. You can have more or less backups. You can change where they're stored, put them on different disks and so forth. But we want to at least get you going, with at least some things that will start getting you protected. So we're going to default you to that. You could customize if you want, but let's move on for now and just use next. Second thing we want to do is we want to say, okay, look, this comes with content updates and corrections, and we want to bridge kind of like the topic of, look, we pile just thousands and thousands of new and corrected pieces of information into the database every single week. And sometimes it's something as easy as we found out who the inker was on a particular book. Sometimes we found out that this person, Wayne Grawbadger, was scheduled to work on a book, but it turns out Denny, somebody else had to fill in for him and so forth. So something about our data is now wrong, and we know about it. What we're asking for here basically is, will you give us permission to change data when we found out there was a correction? Now, if there isn't, you can use the option down here where you say, look, no, I once the data is in the database, I want you to leave it alone. I never want you to touch it. I put a lot of my own custom data in it. I never submit as a correction myself. And so I just want that stuff left exactly the way I put it. We're certainly going to encourage you to use option number 1, but if you use option number 2, we understand, but at least we want to, set that. And then finally, using Sidekick, right? We want to allow you to set up Sidekick so that it manages this database so we can get it backed up, we can have it sync up to the mobile app and so forth. And if you say yes on this one, what it does is it says, okay, I'm going to automatically add this database to the list of databases that ComicBase manages. And then finally, it's going to give you a little commercial for some of the things you can do to get more information about ComicBase. So first of all, it says, yeah, like any of these things you just set, you can review them, you can fine-tune them under the setup menu. You can go to the ComicBase TV channel, which you are watching now, and see hopefully informative videos, learn more about the program. And we also point you to the forum and point you to tech support, both by email and support. So hopefully you're ready to go now. So here we are. We're using ComicBase 2022, which, again, installed as we started the live stream. So let's review a couple of settings on this one. First thing I'm going to do here, and I wanted to call this one your first 20 minutes with ComicBase, which I think in some of the Facebook postings I might have already. I'll confess. I did some timings before the show, and I found out that the very first time you convert an old database, if it hasn't been used recently with the very latest versions of ComicBase, the very first thing it's going to want to do is it's going to want to convert over all your old notes information that contains descriptions of covers. It's going to want to carry that over and move it into the new item description field, which you see over here. The problem with that, of course, is that when it does that, it takes a fairly long time. It's in my computer, I timed it out, it comes out to about 8 minutes. And when that happens, it's just death. It's just in terms of like as far as hosting a show. So it's not super interesting. I had no ideas later on of how to make it interesting, so I decided, you know what, we're just going to shine on that one for the moment, and we're going to move on and pretend that I'd already converted the database. The other thing you can do, and I believe on this one here, I managed to convert it back and forth enough times that I managed to clear it out of both things and so forth. So if you were to download, item information, like pull down the most recent item information, you'd see it repopulate these fields and so forth as it goes. But I want to spare you the 8 minutes of staring at my machine to wonder what everything went down with. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that are new here. All right, so as mentioned before, and let's pull it up in dark mode over here. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and pull up my regular database here so we can see things a little bit more normally. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. All right. Okay, so here's my regular database, which has been Mickeyed with every 2 seconds. So what you'd see is, and matter of fact, let's go ahead and throw this one onto dark mode just because I'm starting to really dig that theme. Alright, so I'm going into themes here. I went under File, I went to Themes, and now I'm going to choose Darkness. Now, Darkness is our classic dark theme, but there are also dark versions of all the themes. So if you like the Wave or the Sphere or the Grunge or whatever else, you can choose the Dark Grunge or the whatever else for all those other ones. And they work similarly. They just have different background swooshes and stuff like that and so forth. All right, now another thing I'm going to do first, I guess, let's start with this. First thing I'll start with is the very first time you're on the program, it'll say, hey, look, I need to take a couple minutes and move your notes over to the new item description field, which on this database has already been done. So you notice things like this is the design variant covered by Tom Mueller. This is the Cyclops trading card variant covered by Russell Dowderman, etc. It moved it from here to here, freeing up my notes fields. Now my notes field isn't full of just endless amounts of crud describing what the particular issue is all about. But it also leaves me, room to say things like, hey, I've got this one I had signed, or this one came with a certificate of authenticity that I special to me and so forth. I could say things like, this one's my favorite comic book. Whatever you want to put in your own notes, your notes get more to be your stuff and not ours. The item description is something that we are going to manage going forward. The default is going to be that we are allowed to make corrections of this one, but if we've got the ability now to say this is the Carnero Stormbreakers variant covered by Juan Cabal, whatever the thing is, we can manage this one and give you a single listing in this field and not just pile on description after description after description. So we want to really clear this whole thing up much better than we've done in the past. When the notes were having to hold all the things which tell you what the variant was, it was really going to be a problem, and it was only going to get worse. So that's one of the bigger steps that we did from a database standpoint to moving forward in this version, is moving that into this new field. All right, another thing that we've done going forward here, and I think this is a good example, I'm sure. Okay, so let's look down here. Now, typically with variants, here's the X variant and stuff. Actually, I'm going to turn on one other thing here. All right, so by the way, you'll notice I switched down. I'm using my own graphics over here, and they look like garbage up here at the top, right? I'm going to turn on a feature, which is, let me go ahead and find it. Sorry. Okay, so here's the new preferences, and the new preferences has some cool new stuff in it. Let me show you this first one. If I click on automatically download larger pictures when viewing items, which, by the way, if you use the new quick start, automatically gets checked. All right, so now I'm going to go back, and that as I was clicking around there, that these things, if you look at the large versions, look like garbage, right? But wait a minute, they don't. That's the same cover. That's the same cover. Wait, these all look great. What just happened there? And if we go and we look at the picture files, it'll explain the story behind the story. If I pull this over to the right window. All right, sorry, let me make it much smaller. It's the problem with having a 4K monitor next to a much smaller monitor. All right, I'm going to hover over some of these guys, and you can see the dimensions of them. All right, so this cover here, this is the C variant of number 2. I have an 82 by 128 pixel thumbnail of it. That's all. It's a tiny, tiny file. For number 3, I've got an 84 by 127. For number 3A, 84 by 128. Now these look fine in thumbnail mode. I can see what the covers are. I can work with them, right? But if I were looking for any level of details, this would be absolutely unacceptable. I mean, who wants this nonsense, right? Well, here's the deal. With the new version of ComicBase, if you have the archive edition, we managed to square the circle between, like, how do we give people more and more data on more and more comics at better and better resolution, while at the same time not making them download and install just incredible amounts of disk after disk after disk after disk. What we came up with, and I'll show it to you over here, somewhere in there is my downloads. Oh, there we are. Okay. Is we came up with the idea of having a quick start pictures archive. Now this is a special picture archive. It's got, in this case, like 778,000 or something like that pictures at tiny, tiny resolutions with much larger versions of the number 1s. But we compressed it all down at actually very nice quality for such small pictures. But we compress it down to a single 7 GB file. You download one thing. We know it's quick start pictures, so that when you install this one thing, it says, hey, look, it looks like you're installing thumbnails. Matter of fact, I'll show you what that looks like. I'm not going to actually install it because that, again, makes for deadly TV. But when I go to install, it'll say, let's go ahead and pick it out of my downloads. Okay. Let me drag this over the thing. All right, it says, hey, Quick Start Pictures primarily contains thumbnails, right? Now, you sure you want to replace your existing pictures with these much smaller thumbnails? And it's going to default to no. So if you've got any big pictures, leave them the heck alone, right? So if there are any that are exact matches, it'll not touch your larger pictures, but it will install all the thumbnails for new pictures you don't have. Now I'm just going to cancel out of here. I don't want to do anything right now because I've already installed all the thumbnails. But anyway, that's what I've got on the disk. Now remember that the when we get down to the larger ones down here, this like the 3C. Remember that was a tiny picture, right? Now again, it looks okay in the thumbnail here. But if I were to look at it, blown up, it would look like garbage. But every time I actually go to the picture, it sits there and says, wait, oh, hey, he's actually using that picture. So of the 778,000 pictures that came with this, there's only a tiny fraction of them that you'll actually ever view at anything other than, small size for use on reports or on labels or things like that, or for just, breezing down to look at a grid. So why am I carrying all that weight in the program for all these larger pictures that I'm not actually using? But as you can see, this is the full-size thumbnail there, and all it took for me to get it was click on it. Here's the one for the one right next to it. Here's for this one right here, and they're loading this fast. I swear to God, these pictures were not loaded up full resolution on my machine until the very second you just saw me click on them right now. So what do we get here? Well, the cool part of all this is we managed to actually, again, take something where if you buy the new Archive 4K edition, we're giving you 4K sized images for, I think it's, I forget the exact count, but it's definitely many tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pictures at this point. We actually had to move them onto two 4K Blu-rays in order to fit them all at some kind of acceptable quality. You could certainly install everything off those two Blu-rays. Definitely go for it if you want. You paid for it. If you got the disk space, not hurting anything at all if you do that. Or you could just download one file with all the thumbnails and then only get only have the images for the pictures that you needed as you need them. And what you'll find over time is that's actually a tiny fraction of the pictures in the database. It's just that your own use will inform which pictures those are. We don't know which pictures you're going to want to see. But every time you click on one, so you say, hey, you do anything that triggers it to want to show a picture bigger than 128 pixels tall, it'll just go and grab the bigger one from our servers and feed it down to you. And we are actually, I'll admit, hoping that by doing it this way, as opposed to saying, hey guys, everyone who just bought a 4K Archive edition, it's not a 45 gig download, now it's a 90 gig download. So it's going to be a while for you to download all this stuff. Please don't blow our servers into the ground just downloading them at the same time. We're kind of hoping that a lot of you guys opt for downloading the smaller quick start version, at least playing with it for a bit before you decide that you really want to download all 90 gigs. Now, if you want to download all 90 gigs, they're sitting right there. You can certainly download them, or if you get them on disk, you can do that way as well. But yeah, no, we're hoping that this is actually more convenient for you, probably more convenient for our poor servers in terms of not having to serve up so very much bandwidth to service all the things all at the exact same moment. But at the same time, it also makes it so that instead of having to set aside 50 or 100 gigs on your disk in order to maintain ComicBase, maybe you can get the whole thing done with 10 gigs or 15 and still have all the quality that you wanted in the program. So, the way that this actually works is where we stole the trick from. We stole it from video games. As a matter of fact, it's one of the two major tricks that we stole from video games this time out. If you ever play a game like, say, Red Dead Redemption or something like that, this Red Dead Redemption is a huge, huge game. And it's installing all of its content, over multiple Blu-rays. It was 3 days after I decided I've actually got a little time left, to play a game at the end of the day before I could actually play the game because the install took that long. They were more constrained by bandwidth than we are, but the main thing that video games have to manage is they have to manage, wait, I've got 90 or 100 gigs worth of content, but I've got a graphic card that only holds 256 or 512 megabytes of memory at any given time. So how do I show all these amazing textures of not only the weapons that you're holding in your hand, the mane of the horse you're guiding around, the character faces of whoever's around you? How do we keep all those looking photorealistic and at the same time ride through a vast open landscape of the Old West and have that look good? Well, one thing they realize is that things that are close to you, things that you're going to look up at closely, those ones need to have the texture at full resolution because it's right in front of your face. I mean, if I'm holding my revolver, I better see every scratch on that on that pistol as it goes and glints in the sun as I mow down the bad guys. Actually, Red Dead, you kind of are the bad guy, but anyway, same thing goes for like if I'm looking at my horse's mane or things like that. I want to see every hair on that thing. If there's a character who's coming close to me, I want to be able to look at their eye and so forth. But what about the house they walked out of that's over in the distance, a couple 100 feet or even 50 feet? I don't need to show every splinter of wood that's on the door of that house. Now, if I get on my horse and I ride up to that house, I better be able to look at that door and see the splinter of wood. But during the time I'm riding up to the door of that house, I've got a little bit of time where I can swap out the things that aren't in the scene and load up the higher resolution textures of the things that are about to be in the scene. And there's so much mojo in video game design where they make sure they've got enough time as I ride towards the mountains or I ride towards some prairie scene or something like that. That's when the grass textures go from being these big fuzzy blocky things I can barely see. I mean, you might have a 256 byte pixel map loaded in memory, which is meant to represent all the grass on the hillside of the mountain way in the distance, because I don't need to be able to show all the detail because I can't see it. But the second you get up to it, suddenly that gets swapped out for something that's several thousand times the size in your computer's memory. So we're doing something similar. We have at this point 100 gigabytes of information that we can show you at full 4K resolution, but do we need to show it to you right away? Or, if we show you the thumbnail so you know it's there, especially if you can do all the things that require fast work with it, like printing reports or, looking at grids and things like that, just to be able to discern which image is which. Couldn't we wait until the second you actually click on something that makes it bigger in order to show the full resolution version? And in our case, because we're not asking for the world, we're not asking you to load in 20 gigs at once or 5 gigs at once or even like 100 megs at once like Red Dead would have to. We don't even have to have it on your disk. So we can when we originally were going to try this trick, we were thinking of having like one timer that was rolling through the program, was always pre-caching everything as you go, and it was very elaborate, and we tried it. And we got that working, and it took about 3-4 days of hard work, to get that whole crawl going. So just as you use the program in your spare moments, it would always be downloading the high-res images of just everything else that was down the list and so forth. And then after we did that, okay, we got that working. Now let's do the quick loading of things that you're clicking on. And we found the quick loading. We thought it would take like a second and a half to load the high-res images. Turned out our average load time was between 50 milliseconds and 120 milliseconds for the high-res images of where we're going. Now, we have a decent internet connection. I mean, if you're up on dial-up, then probably buy the thing on disk, take the hit. I mean, if bandwidth is very, very expensive for you, if you're out in the boondocks and you've just got some really jank modem or something, and in the world's slowest internet, then yeah, go for preloading these things, because at that point this isn't going to be a great trick for you. But for everyone else, I mean, like if you can watch Netflix at any kind of acceptable resolution, then suddenly you're looking at a whole new world here, where you've got the scope of everything all at your fingertips, but at the same time you've got all the depth of it comes only when you need it. And so anyway, I'm pretty proud of the trick. I probably would have gone on way too long about it, but anyway, that's actually probably my favorite feature in the new version. Now, let's go back to chat and see how we're going here. Let's see here. Let's change it. Okay, Lance. Will 4K subscribers automatically download the res-iest pictures when clicking through, or does it download archive-iest pictures? Great question. So what it's doing here, and I'm actually doing this in 4K, is we've been pulling this trick, whether you knew it or not, for a couple of months. Okay, it's really more like 6 months now, where we got to a point where, I mean, I'm a graphics guy, and so it kind of hurts my eyes when there's a gradient that just breaks up into bleh whenever you compress it too hard. And we were really struggling with the whole idea with the Archive Edition in particular of how do we get the comic covers to look nice to our eyes, but at the same time fit on 4 DVDs, because we could tell a long time ago that you have more than 4 DVDs, then at that point you're not helping anybody. It's adding to the woes of your users if they just have to install disc after disc after disc. We figured, look, the upper limit that I'd say that this is better rather than worse is definitely 4. Maybe it was 3 as far as how many discs you ever want to swap in and still consider your life reasonable. But the problem is we kept on getting more content. So what did we do? Now eventually we wound up actually having to downgrade the picture size. We would squeeze things too hard, and they would, some of the color flats. So let's take one like this. You would see that these fields right here, if they were on some of the older ones, would just break up into this mess of pixel noise and JPEG artifacting. This is exactly kind of like a worst case scenario of it. And so we thought, well, that's not great. I mean, what's the point of having a deluxe version of software if it's not going to look deluxe? At the same time, I didn't want to ship 20 discs to everyone. So what we did is we cheated. There's a lot of cheating going on at this point. We try to tell you when we're cheating, but I mean, I'll tell how I think a fairer way to put it is we'll just tell you how the magic trick is pulled off. Is how do you fit 20 pounds of goo into a 5-pound bag, right? So the way we did that is we said, okay, we will put a slightly smaller than real life image. Instead of going 1,000 pixels tall on these images, we'll go 750 pixels tall. So, I mean, on the average monitor that our users are going to have, it's still going to render as full size because they don't have the pixels on their monitor to render it higher than that. But if you've got a big 4K setup like we've got going on here, you can actually see that the images that we've been doing lately have been a little smaller than they've been in the past. At least that was true until very recently. So what we did is we said, well, on the other hand, we know we can serve up images pretty quickly, so how about we initially give you the image that's not quite as big as your monitor. It's pretty close. I mean, maybe there's an inch top and bottom. But if you were to say right-click download, or if you were simply to let Sidekick download every week, or you were to do anything else, if you ever said download the image, then you'd get actually a much nicer image than the one that we can fit on the discs. You'd get it at 1,000 pixels tall. It would get it at a 50% quality setting, which is very, very nice. It's a real sweet spot between like image quality and not being just stupidly massive on your disc. But if you were to actually go to every image in the archive edition and download them, like right-click on them and say download, you'd find out that you've got about 50 gigs of content there that it would download to you. So, but wait, how'd that work? Because you can't fit 50 gigs of content onto 4 DVDs because there's only about 30 gigs of space. Well, the answer is we said, well, we can do more with downloads, so we did. I mean, you still got all the breadth as you went. So it's kind of like the junior version of what we were fully embraced this time out. Now, now the other thing we would do is, let's say you've got a 4K monitor and you're really rocking the setup. Whenever you said download there, is you always get served up the highest res picture we'd ever had. Now these days, most of our pictures are coming in at full 4K resolution if they're new. Sometimes we'll get publisher previews. They're smaller than that, but as soon as anyone scans the picture, certainly any picture that any of our staff scans, goes up at 4K. And at this point, we have many, many, many tens of thousands of 4K. We're slowly revving the entire image library up to full 4K resolution. It'll be years, but we'll get there in the end. So if you have the 4K edition, you get a 4K download. If you have the archive edition, you get an archive download. And we did it in the past just with, if you right-click download, or if you let Sidekick download the new images for you automatically. And we also do it right now I'm running the 4K archive edition up here. And so when I'm clicking on these guys over here, I'm getting served up the 4K version of these pictures. Now, on this particular monitor, the one I use for the live stream, I can't broadcast the stream in 4K, so you're not seeing it as nice as these images could be seen. So effectively, it probably looks about the same to anyone who's watching in the audience, because you're basically getting a standard high definition version of the whole thing. But the 4K image is actually being served up if you've got the 4K archive edition. So anyway. Long answer to a short question, but thank you very much for that. Okay, and let's see. I think Steve Danziger also answered. Let's see here. Aaron has a question about Shopify. Let me get back to you on that one later on. The short answer is that's a feature that slipped out of this version, but we're going to pursue it in a point release soon thereafter. We know it's a priority. It's actually one of the ones that we were very excited when I was talking about things that our list of going in and our list going out were a little different. That's one of the ones that we were most excited about adding in. Unfortunately, we were surveying the customer base. It was one that was a super high use to relatively lesser people, but it doesn't mean that we're not amongst those people. So we still want it in there. It just didn't make ship day. So it'll come along in a point release. Okay, let's get on to other things. So let me talk about a couple other things that I want to do just when you're starting out using the program, and then I want to switch over a little bit to other announcements. I want to wrap up a little bit some thoughts on what we're doing with the new release and how we're staging it, and then honestly, I also want to get your own questions about new things as we're going, because I definitely been babbling a lot about things as we went there, so I want to share the time with you guys, because you guys are the ones who make this all possible. All right, so other things that are kind of interesting about this new release. All right, now one that I bypassed a little bit because, again, I couldn't think of a way to make it interesting for video. So I'm going to kick off something a little smaller that is maybe a little bit more interesting. Now, I'm going to go under File Tools. I'm not doing this for any reason other than I want to do something that involves a progress bar. So I'm going to do something. I'm just going to rebuild my list of series information, right? This is all this really does in real life is it updates, it checks, make sure that, like, if I have, X-Men, the, it becomes the X-Men and so forth. It updates all these computed fields and so forth that are based with the title information. More importantly, it's something that takes a minute or two. So if I say rebuild now, something that happens is the progress bars, you'll notice, are very different. So whenever we know there's a progress bar, unfortunately that one was actually maybe too short. Let me go ahead and kick it off one more time. I don't want to do that. All these other ones I know take like many more minutes than I want to vamp. So what it does is every single time you pull up something that takes time, like a progress update, a content update, a rebuild of things like that, if we think it's going to take more than a couple of seconds, what we switch to is a progress bar that's going to automatically give you tips on how to use the program as you go. This is another things that we stole from video games. If you notice when you've been playing video games in the last 20 years or so, that they don't come with manuals of really any sort. I mean, if you're a real old-time video game guy, you actually probably remember when you got the new copy of Ultima or something like that, and you spent, 30 minutes reading the instructions before you ever crack the game open, because otherwise you'd never know how to play it. Something that was, I first saw it in a game called Sewer Shark. I think it was, a guy's name was Tom Zito. A guy, I was working at Apple at the time. A guy walked into Apple with this strange device with all these cables dangling all off of it. It was just on a cart. And he says, "Hey guys, I figured out, you guys, on the QuickTime team here, I figured a way to have like 4 different streams of QuickTime video playing and switch between them in real time. So we got real-time video playing. But if we are really clever about the way we make the movies go, we can make it so that you can play a game or tell a story where there's different endings that happen, and the player's actions, what they're really doing is they're switching between these 4 different streams of video. And depending on what they did, if they decide that, I'm going to go left at the, in the dark alley, then maybe you get eaten by the zombie. Maybe if you said, but if I go left, otherwise, you continue the video that shows him walking down the big scary hallway until they go to the part where they approach the death trap of doom, and then they either, jump over, because, they press the button in time to jump over the death trap of doom, or you play the video where they're falling to their death. Obviously, you'd have to be a plotting master to figure out how to tell an interesting story with this. But if you guys ever played a game called Death Trap, strangely enough, or Zombie Island, you've played what eventually became Tom Zito's technology in real life video games, and that was something that was just stunning to us. But one of the things I thought that was the best of all in that whole thing is he had a game called Sewer Shark for the Sega Genesis, is where it finally wound up appearing. And he had commissioned John Dykstra, the special effects guy from the original Star Wars, to act as the special effects coordinator for this one. He had Maria Conchita Alonso in the starring role, and the idea is that you're in some kind of you're a pilot in some kind of weird post-apocalyptic future. Your job is to fly through these sewer systems, and you have to. There are all sorts of mean gribblies that are coming out to kill you as you're going, and you have to get them and navigate through all these things. And if you take a wrong turn as you're flying at Mach whatever, you of course end in a fiery death of doom. But the whole point is, all the controls, everything you did, was explained to you as you started the game. All you did is you fire the game up, and as soon as you said new game, it said, all right, you meet Marie Conchita Alonso. She's a pilot who's seen it all. You're just another idiot rookie to her. She says, all right, Rook, here's the way it goes. It's like, you're not going to last very long, so I'm not going to waste my time getting to know you, but here's how it goes. This is our job. We do this, right? You see a wall, you go, you push that to go right. Otherwise, you push that to go there. You push it too slow, you're gonna die. You see this rat go up there. Here's how you pull up your target assembly. You get him or he gets you, and if you don't act fast, you're gonna die. Any questions, Rook? Didn't think so. All right, let's start. And before you know it, you're in the game. It's already started working on you. And the cool thing is, you never left the character of the game as you were going. You're starting to, you get to know the world. You get to know what the scenery looks like. It's showing you all the chrome. Honestly, the technology of the game didn't have a chance to show you. It didn't have the ability to render 3D textures and all the other things that you could see in the video of the tutorial. But by the time you were 45, 50 seconds into the game, you knew how to play it. And that's been the standard really ever since. Well, anyway, 20 years later or 30 years later, we're finally catching up with that idea and saying, look, how do we teach you to use a very complicated database program? And look, there are all sorts of ways where we say, look, here's the basic concept. Like one of the things we did at the beginning there is we said, look, the database lives on your machine. That's one of the main things that people come in from other web, if you use Google Docs for a living, you might think that my machine doesn't really matter. I just plug in whatever I've got and my doc lives in the cloud, so, whatever. Backing up isn't an issue for you because it doesn't live on your machine anyway. But if you come in with that supposition, or if you've never really thought it through and you just kind of assume, well, I don't know, magic happens, you might wind up having completely different expectations of the program than are real. So one thing that we try to do all the way throughout this new release is we try to kind of get you grounded in what are the basic things that this program does, and how do we get comfortable with how it goes. And then, once we've done that, that was part of what the Getting Started guys were about, was, okay, look, this is how the basic stuff goes. Let's configure how it goes, and you can customize it later if you want. You probably won't, but that's how it goes. Beyond that, what we do is, as you use the program, we use that time where you can't escape waiting. Like if we said, look, here's the manual, we know you won't read it. The opening rates on user guides are like 1.5–2%, no matter how beautifully written the guide is. So user guides aren't going to work. If we opened up one of those tip doc things that starts out, sometimes you'll run a web app or a phone app, and it'll insist on showing you tips every time you run the app. And everyone looks at the thing, and all you do is say, where's the close box? And as soon as you can find the close box combined with the "and never show it to me again" box, you've at least said, oh, phew. Now it might have been telling you something very important. You'll never know because no one was ever going to read it. The main thing is, you weren't at a moment in your life where you wanted to hear the tips, so why are you telling me? But what the answer was, because some poor instructional designer at the company that was was responsible for the program you're using was really desperately trying to head off a tech support call that they know they're going to get down the road for the people who didn't understand some basic concept or some method of using the program. That's what they're trying, but the problem is it was never going to work. So there's all these things we've tried over the years that don't work as far as teaching people how to use, systems that are anything other than one big red button that you smash repeatedly with your head. I think the best anyone's ever done is take the moments when you're bored. Take the moments where you gotta wait anyway, such as when you're downloading a content update, when you're waiting for something else, and say, all right, look, you're gonna kind of zone out anyway for 30–40 seconds. Maybe you'll switch over to a web browser, read a news article, maybe do whatever you do to kill time. Or we can use that 35–40 seconds and start pushing info to you that, hey, it maybe teaches you something new about the program, maybe it teaches you some basic stuff. And we kind of weigh it in some different ways. The first couple, few days you use the program, most of the tips you're going to see as you use it are going to be based around all the new features of the program and basic concepts. As you use it longer, you're going to get more tips that are more upper end concepts. And when you be using it for a very long time, we're going to really hand you the hard stuff. But we're going to hand it to you randomly, so you don't know what's coming, which we're thinking is going to make you look once in a while, or at the very least, if you're super bored, you'll glance over and like they used to say in the old Bill Cosby show, maybe you'll learn something. I mean, it's not we're trying to talk down to you at all. It's just we're the same way when we use apps. You know, I can't wait. I design software for a living. I'm frustrated by this program, this product, this problem myself about how to get people to learn things that, you know, I've been using forever, so I know how this goes. But how do I teach somebody new? And I can't just, you know, come over to all your houses. You know, we can't do a live stream on everything. But how do we teach somebody something new like that? And honestly, I think the video game guys have nailed it better than anyone else has in the past. So that's what we're doing on that one. Okay, I think that's what I want to say about that for now. Let me check the chat real quickly, and then I'm going to move on to announcement number 2. Okay, let's do. Oro says, is it possible to access and review the tips independently from the file tools operations? This was actually a really hot topic of discussion in the design sessions. And as a matter of fact, we have... If we ever change our mind on this, we have some beautifully illustrated frames for the comic tips to show these off and so forth like that. At the end of the day, we came down the side of, no, actually, we're not going to put a thing in the program that lets you just blast through the tips like this. You know, where you just say, go next. We might do it on the website, but we're not going to do it in the program. And I think honestly, it has to do with just, it's a little bit of human nature. It's like, I like the show Bar Rescue. There's an infamous episode in Bar Rescue where the shtick on Bar Rescue, if you've ever seen was it Kitchen Nightmares, it's the same idea. Is you take a very famous consultant in the bar industry, a guy named John Taffer. He walks into some nightmare bars that are just being run horribly, just some kind of horrific problem where they're all going out of business. They've only got weeks or months to live. And he says, look, I'm going to kick some butt, and here's how I would change your shtick so that it worked right. There's an infamous episode where he walked in, and for some reason, the bar in question had decided they wanted a pirate theme. So it was like, "Arr, mateys, I'm going to wear an earring, and I'm going to talk like this the whole time," and whatever else. I have no idea what the rest of it was because I've only seen a little bit of flashback episode of it. Well, Bar Rescue's running for free on Pluto TV. It's built into most of our TVs if we have a smart TV. It's one of those channels you flip through that has infinite numbers of syndicated things that, you know, you don't really want to watch, but if it is watching, you probably won't turn it off. It's that level of interest. And I would love to watch the pirate episode. It's like an itch I would love to scratch. The problem is, I can't, on the free channels of TV, I can't just go download the pirate episode. It doesn't work that way on Pluto TV. As a result, I have watched about 1 trillion times more Bar Rescue episodes than I ever wanted to watch just by having it on and say, well, maybe the next one will be good. It's kind of like, if you guys remember MTV from the old days, it's sort of like the video you're watching sucks, but well, maybe the next one will be good. And you watch infinity amounts of MTV that way because maybe the next one. So we're using the same effect, where if you can't just quickly scroll through everything as if it was like a short form user manual like that, then you're going to wind up paying a little bit more attention to all of the tips, and you'll get them repeatedly, and some ones that maybe you would have glanced over the second or third viewing, you can maybe kind of get what we were saying and whatever else. But yeah, we're going to make it so you can't just dismiss them because you know that the interesting one is already covered. That's at least how we're going to play it to start with. Now, I am definitely open to the idea of, well, could we take the list of tips, throw them onto a forum view for the people who are very dedicated? At least there's a way to just read down the whole thing as if it was some kind of weak sauce user manual. Yeah, we could definitely do that. But I do want to actually make the tips a little bit more random and tantalizing so that as you're zoning out, you have a little bit more reason to pay attention as you go. And basically, again, trick you into the paying attention and learning part. We're going to try it. We'll see if it works. And if it doesn't, we'll adjust. But anyway, that's the answer on that. Okay, let's see here. Dooba-dooba-dooba-doo. And Steve, of course, as usual, is giving the better answers to everything much faster than I am. All right, so let's see here. Okay. And Oro says, I read slow, computers are faster than I am. Yeah, we try to keep the tips to a sentence or two, ideally with a graphic, and they're on screen for like 40-45 seconds. It shouldn't be too much of a stretch. You want to be right at the edge of where it's just getting super, super boring before you move on to the next one. we played around with different timings, and I'm certain we will rev in the future as well. If you guys have ever played Skyrim, like your whole life is loading screens, so how many times can they show you the 3D view of the dagger or something as you pan around it before you lose your mind, and they've timed that to be just about the part where you're losing your mind when they switch on, and we try to mimic that. All right. So I think that's the chat for now. Let's move on to other announcements. So announcement number one is that what's his name? What's its name? Yeah, Burning Man is going to be shipping. ComicBase 2022 will be shipping on Tuesday. I'm not going to say what time on Tuesday. It's going to rely on how our weekends go and how much turkey we've all had and things like that. But yes, on Tuesday, everyone should get a note that you've got a new serial number waiting for you in your account. If you bought in the meantime, you'll be given the new software and so forth. But yeah, Tuesday is the day. So anyway, thank you to everyone who helped us get there. There were so many of you guys who, again, volunteered your time and your ideas, and to all of our staff that worked so hard on everything. And God knows I've been working our web guy and our graphic guy so hard over the last week. It's been stupendous. But anyway, thank you everyone. I couldn't we don't do this without you. We can't say thanks enough. Anyway, on that note, I always feel bad on Thanksgiving, and this is announcement number 2. We always want to have a way of saying thank you at Thanksgiving and have it come across as, look, we mean this. We're not just trying to sell you something. So, I'm a Midwestern kid at heart, so this is the kind of thing that usually leaves you like, well, if you can't say anything and how be sure it's right, maybe you should just shut up. That is kind of the inclination. But honestly, I'm going to be gushy and emotional just for a moment here, and say, guys, we are turning around. We're coming around to our 30th year of business and everything. This whole partnership is a partnership between us trying to do something that'll delight you folks, and you guys believing it enough to spend your hard-earned dollars on it. And that is absolutely precious to us. It's what puts a roof over my family, and it's kept all of us in business for all these years. And again, we could not say enough of it. So, divorced of any sale activity, of any special, of any whatever else, we wanted to at least just take a month, because it's too compressed. At Thanksgiving, you're always riding the end of the Christmas sale season or Black Friday. So we decided we're going to almost time this to like Advent. And for the next 4 weeks, all of our live streams, we hope you tune in, but we are going to be giving away stuff on every single one of the live streams. It's going to be comics, special editions. We have some one-of-a-kind things. We will not be giving away ComicBase or anything we sell. Everyone who knows my position on professionalism knows that that's not something I would do. But at the same time, we want to use this excuse to give back to you guys. So we will be, I don't know if it's comic trivia or luck of the draw or something, but please do sign in for the next 4 live streams, and we are going to be hopefully sending several of you, some lovely presents as a result. So maybe that is number 2. And tell your friends. Yeah, the more the merrier on that one. So anyway, that is announcement number 2. All right, so let's see here. And well, I guess I'll just go ahead and go to announcement number 3 here, because I guess we're getting close to time anyway. So forgive me for a moment, guys. I'm going to put a random object on screen, because this is the part of the video I'm going to cut out of the playback. So if you're not catching it now, it's just going to disappear later on in the rebroadcast. So, okay, so that was just there. So I had a nice visual marker for the edit, and this is the whole thing. So we talked about sales season. Of course, we're sitting there staring right into the barrel of Black Friday. We are not going to be doing anything earlier than Black Friday, but we are absolutely going to keep up the tradition we've had for the last couple of years and have a Black Friday sale. So here are the broad parameters of that. And this, again, for obvious reasons, this is the part that's going to go away from the video on the rebroadcast. Starting no sooner than very, very, very late on Thursday night, we are going to update our website, and we're going to send out an announcement to folks letting them know that we're having our Black Friday sale. This is one of really 1 or 2 times during the entire year where you can count us doing a sale. We've been doing less and less sales as we go along, especially between COVID and inflationary pressures. We are definitely interested in, we don't do these things often, I guess, is what it comes down to. So it's a good thing when you take advantage of them when they are. We are going to be offering, and I do mean the lowest prices all year. You will see on all of our stuff. We have no barcode scanners in the mix this time out because we have no barcode scanners left to sell. We have sold our last one out. But everything else is going to be on sale, both new items and upgrades. We're also going to be doing, for the first time ever, we're going to be offering auto renewals, which will allow you to take even more money off. So that's something that look for that one. Like I say, we want you guys to be able to enjoy Turkey Day. So look, it's Thanksgiving. It's for being thankful, and God knows we are. But we want you to take that day, be with your families, and not worry about sales. And then come Friday, very, very early morning, or Thursday, very, very late, look in your mail. It'll be running for 4 days and only 4 days. And then as soon as that sale is done, we'll be shipping ComicBase 2022 to everyone. By the way, if you buy it during the sale, if you buy it in physical format, we're going to be shipping you ComicBase 2022 discs. If you buy it in download format, you're going to automatically get an upgrade and a renewal to your ComicBase 2021. But as soon as ComicBase 2022 ships, you will get that new serial number, and it'll have the new renewal date on it. So you'll get that one automatically. But do you guys a favor here. Don't buy ComicBase between now and then. I'm actually on record saying, save your money. You're going to get a better deal if you hold off for a very, very short amount of time. In this case, something like 2 days. So go out and just enjoy what you're doing right now. Spend no money with us. Buy presents from your kids someplace else. Come back on Friday night and grab your upgrade while you can. Grab a renewal if you're looking to buy ComicBase as a gift for someone. Please do. It's great, and we'll save you some money on it. But anyway, that's pretty much the story on that one. And I think I'm going to put the cue up on the whole thing, and this is where we cut this section of the video again. All right, guys. Well, that's about it for the live stream. Let me do a quick check. I think we're good on everything. But thank you once again for coming, and we will see you on the other side of Thanksgiving, and we'll show you all sorts of new cool things when we do. You have a good one. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.